Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot, and one day I'll be your favorite Diablo 4 content creator. Now, I am doing the early and mid-game version of my Bone Necro build. This is the build you guys have been requesting after seeing me play it live on stream over the past few days. But what I'm going to say is that because I'm level 65 at the time of shooting this, I'm going to try and explain things and adjust things as if I were back, way before level 65 in the early and mid game. However, you guys are going to have to pay attention because the skill build for this changes as you go. And you can actually see all of this happen if you go back and watch the streams where I played this and leveled up with it. You can actually see that I had to rejig the skill build to find the best possible pathway. So for the early and mid game sections, and this is why I'm separating out the late game build video for another day, where I'm going to go in depth in the Paragon path and all that. Today I'm just going to cover the early and mid game stuff, which is up to level 50. And I need you guys to pay attention, okay? Because like I said, there are changes to be made along the way. Now, without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. First and foremost, we're going to bring up the skill tree. And as we always do, I'm going to refund all my skill points right now and show you how to build this right from level 1. First and foremost, for this build, Hemorrhage, Enhanced Hemorrhage, you unlock your second node, the core skills, right? Now, I do have extra item contribution, but please pay attention. Don't look at what the points in each item are. Some of them come from item contribution. I want you to look at where I'm adding the points, okay? Next, Bone Spear 1 point, Enhanced Bone Spear, okay? And you need 2 more points to get down here. So, you are first going to go for Supernatural Bone Spear, because early in the game, you don't have any other way of making enemies vulnerable, okay? So Supernatural Bone Spear, you need 1 more point. Go for Initiate's Hemorrhage. This will help you get an early fortify going, because Hemorrhage basically will allow you to fortify very quickly, okay? As well as heal from the blood orbs, okay? And on top of that, you can also use your Bone Spear freely and offensively, okay? Alright, now you've unlocked this skill tree. This is where a lot of your other skills are going to come in. But first, what you're going to do. Step 1. Skeleton Warrior Mastery. Okay? 3 ranks. Why? Because initially in the game, alright, I'm going to open the Book of the Dead temporarily. Okay? Initially in the game, you are going to want to use your Skeleton Warriors and Skeleton Mages. Alright? So in the early game stages, please put 3 ranks into Skeleton Warrior Mastery. You need 2 to unlock the next tier, but there's literally nothing in this tier except for passives and the Skeleton Mage Mastery. So where do you put your remaining 2 points? Step 1. Blood Mist, okay? This is how your skills will be organized. Raise Skeleton here, Blood Mist here, okay? And then 1 point into Corpse Explosion, okay? This unlocks this tier, okay? And you have spent 11 points thus far. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that these 11 points, okay, you are, I believe your first Skeleton Mage is at level 12. So you'll have 1 point before the Skeleton Mages. Now, the Skeleton Mages, right, you only want to put ranks into their mastery when you have them. So if you don't have them yet, okay, please go for not Enhanced Corpse Explosion, Bone Spear. Dump as many points into Bone Spear as you can, okay, any of the renown points as well, okay, get into Bone Spear. Then, once you've unlocked the Skeleton Mage, okay, please continue putting ranks into Skeleton Mage Mastery. That unlocks this tree, okay? And now, what you need is 1 point into Corpse Tendril. This is going to be the last skill in your build, alright? So, 1 point here. Now, I have 3 from items, alright? So, that's why it's 4 out of 5, but 1 point in here. Pay attention. Enhanced corpse tendrils and plagued corpse tendrils. This is how you will make creatures vulnerable now. So what you're going to do is you're going to refund this. Okay, but you can't because you need it to unlock the next node, right? Okay, no problem. What you'll do is, with spare skill point or whatever, you can put another point somewhere around here. Or you can just take off 1 point here. Okay, and then adjust as needed. Like, I would do something like that. Like this, then take it off, okay? Then put the point back in here. Basically, you need to swap over to Paranormal Bone Spear. Why? Because you no longer need Supernatural Bone Spear. It only makes the first enemy you hit vulnerable, okay? Whereas here, now your Corpse Tendrils will suck enemies in and make them vulnerable. So, you no longer need this, okay? You're gonna go for the Paranormal. Now, the early game ends at about level 20, 25, you know. I used to think I should stop early game around 20, but I'll take it all the way to 25. You've got 6 skill points left to put in. Where do you put them in? Okay. First things first, okay. I want you guys to max out your Bone Spear. This is essential. Without this, you are doomed. Okay, and all the remaining points should go into number 1, Corpse Explosion, Blighted Corpse Explosion to finish this out, okay? And then, Death's Embrace, okay? By this time, this is the end of the early game, alright? This is your early game build. You will also have hit level 25 by about this point, which means you now have your Golem. But the only Golem that is useful is the Blood Golem. Why? It can absorb up to 15% of the damage you would take. So what you're going to do now is you have to wait until you unlock the Blood Golem. When do you unlock the Blood Golem? Okay. Quick Google search will tell you. Blood Golem. Diablo 4. When do you unlock Blood Golem? Level 28. So, until level 28, you have 2 more skill points. Where do you put them in? Again, Bone Spear is already maxed. Okay. Your next thing is Corpse Tendrils. You need your Corpse Tendrils up as often as possible. Okay? Excuse me. If they're not up as often as possible, you're going to have a miserable time. So, continue putting ranks into this. Now you've reached 28, you should have your Golem. This is where your whole system changes. Okay? This is where your whole system changes. Now that you've reached level 28, first and foremost, get your Blood Golem and take the first skill, where the Blood Golem absorbs 15% of the damage you would take. Then, going back to your Book of the Dead, sacrifice your Skeletal Warriors, okay? Turn them into Skirmishers, okay? Sorry, sacrifice the Skirmishers. And then for the Skeletal Mages, please sacrifice the Cold Mages, okay? Because they deal increased damage to vulnerable targets. The rest are not that useful. You can also choose to sacrifice Shadow early on in the game for increased essence, but I find this not worthwhile. It is very much better to sacrifice my Cold Mages, okay? Now, you are going to have to adjust your skill build. So you're going to have to refund some points, whether you like it or not. First, start by refunding the last node. Okay, so I refund my Skeletal Mage Mastery. And again, I'm going to put the point into Corpse Tendril. Refund, point into Corpse Tendril. Refund, point into Corpse Tendril. Okay, no more points to put in there? No problem. Hewed Flesh. This is where it's going to get a bit tricky and complicated. Okay, you're going to need corpses, and this is the best way to get them. Hewed Flesh is a necessity. Alright? Now, for your skill tree, right, you're going to put the Golem here. So you'll always have your Blood Golem with you. But now generating corpses is going to be a problem. You are going to need to generate corpses to fuel your abilities. So, like I mentioned, And if you cannot put points into Corpse Tendril, totally okay. Okay? If you find generating corpses to be a problem, spend more into Hewed Flesh. Then for your Skeletal Warrior Mastery, these points are going to go into Grim Harvest. Okay? So if you find that you need your corpses first, Hewed Flesh, and then Grim Harvest. Now you've gotten rid of all the points in your Skeletal Mage Mastery, as well as your Skeleton Warrior Mastery. You now have Hewed Flesh, as well as Grim Harvest. Okay? The key now is to get used to the playstyle of Corpse Tendrils and Exploding Corpses to get your essence back, and then use your Bone Spear as much as you can. This is the playstyle for the Necro. Meanwhile, your Blood Golem will be reducing the damage that you take. All right? Now, as you level up, please put points into Standalone. Get 3 points into this ASAP. This will give you 16% damage reduction. It says 18%, but remember, your Golem counts as 1 minion, so you're going to lose 2%. So you've got 16% damage reduction, but this is excellent. Next, put points into Memento Mori. After putting 2 points into Memento Mori, you unlock your key passive. Get Ossified Essence. Okay? After getting Ossified Essence, you then want to... Oops, sorry. Let me remove my cam. I forgot that I brought it back. You will then finish out Memento Mori. This gives you a 60% sacrifice bonus for both your Skeletal Warriors and Mages. You don't have to sacrifice the Golem to get this. So take this. It's very good. Alright? This gives you extra critical chance, extra vulnerability damage. And now, once again, you are going to work on passives, okay? Corpse Tendril, I left it around there. I didn't fully finish it. If you want to, you can. But the points that I would put in first would be, number 1, Fueled by Death. You are going to start exploding corpses to get back essence, as I mentioned, via the Grim Harvest ability, yeah? You should also have gotten used to using the Corpse Tendril to pull enemies together. And then now your entire playstyle is going to revolve around destroying corpses for additional damage. Next, you will want to, okay, put 3 points into Serration. Every 10 essence you have upon cast will give you increased critical strike chance. This gives you a baseline 9% increased critical strike chance, assuming that you only have 100 essence. So this is pretty good. Get this first. Then, once again, you should get used to the playstyle of pulling enemies together, and you'll be at a distance, so Death's Reach is very good. Put 3 ranks here. This way your Bone Spear gets additional damage. You pull enemies a distance away, together, you Bone Spear through them. Alright? This is what Death's Reach is for. Next. There are more passives to grab, but these come a bit later. Okay? The next set of passives you want. You need to finish out this, okay? Compound Fracture and Evulsion. But you also need to finish out this. Unliving Energy and Imperfectly Balanced. Okay? So I personally chose to max this first. 9 extra essence, okay, helps your Ossified Essence. Bone Skills will deal 1% increased damage for each point of essence you have above 50 upon cast. So for each point of essence, you're getting 1% extra damage for your Bone Skills. This is why essence is so... Max essence as an affix is so crucial for the Bone Spear Necro. Okay? Now, you're going to further improve your damage. So, Imperfectly Balanced max. The essence cost of Bone Spear will go up, but it deals 15% increased damage. Huge. Now you've got 8 points remaining. Down here, Compound Fracture, maximized. Evulsion, maximized. Now, just to give you a bit of a flavor, right? I actually put only 1 point into Compound Fracture, and I maxed out Evulsion first. Why? Because it's very easy to make enemies vulnerable. Alright? At this point, you are close to level 50. I'm gonna tell you, there is a good legendary that you can... There is a good aspect that you can get, and I'll go through that momentarily. Once you can make everybody vulnerable, this is much more crucial. Because you will crit very easily with this build. Okay? Now you finish off Compound Fracture. and the remaining 2 points finish off Corpse Tendril, and this is your full build, okay? So that brings you to the end of the mid game, where now you've allocated all of your skill points. Now, in order to properly use this character, you are going to need one specific aspect. 2, in fact. Both, however, can be gained from the Codex of Power. I'm going to show you. The first aspect is called, which is placed into your two-handed weapon, is called Splintering Aspect. That is here. You can unlock it from the Gul'ran slums in the Dry Steppes, okay? So, sorry, let me remove my cam again. You can unlock it from the Gul'ran slums in the Dry Steppes. Alright? And the second one is called the Grasping Veins. If I recall, yes, you can unlock it from the Corrupted Grotto in Kyrgyzstan. So this one you unlock around level 45-ish. Alright? This one you place in your amulet. These two are the most crucial aspects for this build. Why? Because the Splintering Aspect allows your Bone Spear's primary attack to make enemies hit beyond the first vulnerable for 3 seconds. Alright? Bone Shards from the Bone Spear will also deal 125, now this is only the baseline version, it goes up to 225% bonus damage to vulnerable enemies, and it will pierce them. This is so essential to absolutely decimate your opponents. Necklace of the Grasping Veins. The Grasping Veins aspect will give you 20, baseline is 15%, but this version that I have gives 26% increased critical strike chance for 6 seconds when I cast Corpse Tendril. That's the first thing. Also, you will deal an additional bonus of up to 90% bonus critical strike damage to enemies damaged by Corpse Tendrils. They don't have to be stunned. They don't have to be vulnerable. Which means this can be used on bosses as well. Alright? So these two are the most crucial aspects that you need. In terms of gear, the kind of stats you should be looking for are critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, okay? You will notice that I'm searching for the same thing everywhere. Damage to distant enemies if you can, or core skill damage. These are crucial. Why? Because your main source of damage is Bone Spear. That's it. Nothing else. So I only focus on buffing that. For the rings, critical strike chance, critical strike damage. That's pretty standard. Vulnerable damage if you can. Alright. For your armor pieces, I try to search for damage reduction. One piece has to have damage reduction distant. One piece has to have damage reduction close. Okay. And both pieces, I try to get max health, total armor, or just raw damage reduction, and that's about it. Okay, I will go through all of this gear far more during the late game build, where we really go in depth for each piece. Okay, but in general, for the early and mid game, get what you can, but remember that you need to be using a two-handed weapon. Whether it's a scythe or a sword, it's okay in the early and mid game. Just make sure that you try to get vulnerable damage and critical strike damage if you can. Okay. This one's imperfect. It's only got 2 of the stats that I want. But intelligence is not that bad. And increased damage to stunned enemies also helps because my Grasping Veins does stun enemies. Not bosses, but enemies in general. Alright? And also DPS per second, very important for your main weapon. Okay? Now, in order to prove that this build works, we're going to do something a little dumb and a little crazy. I'm actually going to take off all this armor. I'm only going to leave the 2 crucial pieces of gear. Well, and boots. Sorry, boots, movement speed. I need them for the movement speed, so I'm going to leave them there. Okay, hope you don't mind. And we're going to go into just some random dungeon, because for the most part, you're not going to be fighting way above your level in world tier, like 1 or 2, whichever one you do. Alright, in the early and mid game, you're not going to be fighting above your level. But in order to demonstrate that this works, okay, I'm going to go into a regular dungeon with only just the core pieces of gear. And I will demonstrate how this works. So let's go to the buried halls. Okay. And I do apologize for the length of this video. Like I said, normally it wouldn't be like this, but because I had already progressed far beyond the early and mid game, I want to show you how this plays out under fair circumstances so that you guys can see how this is supposed to work in the early and mid game, rather than me being at world tier 4 annihilating everything with like best of the best gear. Alright, so we're going to do the test in this way. Now, before we go into the dungeon, I'm just going to give a quick thank you to the channel members who make videos like this possible. Thank you guys so much, okay? And once again, I apologize for the length of this video. I know it's long, and I apologize for having to make it so detailed, but I think it's important because if I don't do that, then people have trouble following along. All right, and if you ever get confused about anything, you can follow the planner link in the description. It only covers the skill build, none of the Paragon path, which will be covered in a separate video, and it only covers the essential aspects, but it should give you a general idea of what to do. All right. However, as I mentioned, this build does have a lot of changes, so please follow along with the description. Okay, great. First of all, let me give thanks to our top tipper, Zane Hoagland. All right, our top super chatter, also Zane Hoagland. Our best super chatters, Mike Cawthon, River Archer, Kenzo Hashirama. All right, and our top channel members who have made all of this stuff possible. Also, special shout out to Bravo, love you. All right. And my honey Kaz, too. Alright, starting right at the top, Death Dawning 982 at Plus Ultra. We are giving thanks to OG, Jerry Fast, Rogue Assassin, Zach MG at Prestige. Thank you guys so much for being so freaking awesome. Giving thanks to our honored robots right now, we've got Marcel, Kaishiwa, Bob John, Maxim Lotz, Corey Ryu, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Scuddy, Nathan Strong, Sabingu, Lady Neo, Joey Danze, A. Ripley, Darverse, Che D12, I'm Peep, Syed Assad, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, Nate the Great, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. Enjoy the combat demonstration. We'll be in the Buried Halls soon. Okay guys, so here we are in the Buried Halls. This is a combat demonstration. Once again, I've unequipped all my gear, except for the crucial gear and boots for movement speed. Alright, this is to make it fairer, and also to show you how this is supposed to work. Okay, when it comes to this particular Necros playstyle, what you need to do is attack your targets at a distance, and you can start out with it. You can open up with a Bone Spear, but essentially you want to grasp them all together and then hit them with the Bone Spear. This is the common playstyle for this build. Alright? Kite your enemies around with superior movement speed, and basically you will be able to rip and tear quite easily. Okay? Now, if I can, I will use Fuel by Death as well to drastically increase the amount of damage I deal. Alright? And this is basically it. But because you are a ranged character, just be very aware that you do have to keep your distance and pick your targets well. Okay? If you don't, you'll run into trouble. This is basically how we do it. Grasping Veins will pull enemies together, and then you blast them. Alright? It's a simple but effective strategy. Grasping Veins, pull them all together. I set up with Fuel by Death for the 9% extra by using a Corpse Explosion, and then if I need extra, I just explode the corpses even more. If my Golem dies because it's absorbing all the damage from me, then, you know, it dies. It comes back fairly quickly and you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay? Now, just be very careful with how you fight, though. Okay? Just be very careful with how you fight. Because the biggest danger for you is getting CC'd. That's when you have to use your Blood Mist, but for the most part, your playstyle is just simple and very straightforward. Okay? You can start clearing trash mobs, pull them all together, Fueled by Death, and Unleash. Build up your essence again, so that you can max out your key passives, like the bonus that it gives you, alright, by having as much essence as possible. And then just keep detonating corpses to refresh your essence, refill that up. Okay? Weave your basics in between your attacks. And I'll happily show how I did the Capstone Dungeon for a more in-depth example at level 53, yeah, for World Tier 4. So that video will come tomorrow. But pretty much, this is the playstyle with this build. It's nothing too difficult or complex. It's just all about pulling in enemies, drawing them together, making best use of the corpses that drop. Okay, either to grasp them in, and then shoot them at max essence, you know, like that. And if you need to, you can refill your essence by just exploding the corpses. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. No major difficulties or problems, yeah? Just like that. Okay? So you just want to get very used to the whole draw them in, shoot them down, that kind of thing. For early and mid game, this is pretty much the way that you play. Now, early game is going to be a little bit tougher because you don't have the key aspects and things like that. And indeed, you will see me leveling with this during the season. I was supposed to do this in season 1, not right now. But, you know, like I said, a lot of people wanted it, so I did it now. However, this was, like I said, intended for season 1, not now. And because it was intended for season 1, I was going to show you guys how I level up with no materials, all that kind of stuff. How to do the obel farming, all that kind of thing, which you guys will be able to catch on stream, alright? But for now, those of you interested in experimenting with it before the season starts, if you really want to, go ahead. This is what I've been using, this is what I've been doing. I'm making, like, compared to the Blood Minion Necro, which I first made, this one is significantly stronger, as you can see. But that's because I understand more about the game. The Blood Minion was my first character, so I didn't understand that late game you have to be fighting like 20 levels above you. Now I know and understand that better, which is why this build is literally structured for that. Hence why you can see, even with all this unequipped gear, I am in very little danger of, you know, anything happening to me. Sure, I might die if I'm careless, but that's normal throughout your entire career. You're gonna have to be careful of those big bang attacks that are going to completely wipe you out, because you are a range damage dealer. Alright? Now if there's a boss here, I will show you a boss fight, but pretty much I hope this combat demonstration shows you how I play this build and how it is intended to be played. Just remember, it's all about grasping, pull them in, detonate the corpse, and then just wipe them out. Yeah? Alright, great. If there's a boss fight, I'll show that. If not, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching this. Okay, so there is a boss fight. As you can see, my gear is still all unequipped. When it comes to boss fights with this, alright, what you want to do is you want to start off with your Bone Spear, and when you first generate a corpse via your hewed flesh, okay, you immediately want to use Fueled by Death, Corpse Tendrils, Corpse Explosions, and then that's it. The fight should be over with your Bone Spear. Alright, so yeah, that's about how you do it. And I hope that helped to show you guys how this build is played. I'm finally going to actually equip my gear on back. Phew. Felt real naked without that. Ah, there we go. Better. Alright, so thank you very much for enjoying this, and I hope you enjoyed the Bone Spear Necro.